The DualSense Edge Pro controller by Sony. Is it worth it? In this video, we're going to break it down and see if this is the controller for you. You may have noticed there's been a lot of different PS5 Pro controllers lately released into the market, and Sony answers with its first-of-a-kind PlayStation 5 Pro controller. So right out of the box, you get the Edge case, which feels very durable. It's a hard shell case made out of plastic, and you have these two zippers with the PS logos on them. Picking it up for the first time, I gotta say it feels very nice. Very similar to the regular DualSense, except this one has a lot better of a grip and it's a little bit more heavier. But that's understandable with all the bells and whistles that's packed inside. Inside the case, we get this 9-foot braided charging cable with USB-C to USB-A. For the back buttons, the controller comes with two different swappable options. First, we'll get these black metal back paddles that feel real nice and heavy, and the metal half dome buttons. In addition, it comes with two high and two low dome joystick caps. To change them, it's pretty easy. You just pop them off and snap it back on. There's also a latch in the back of the case, and you can charge your controller while it's in the case. It even comes with this locking mechanism, which ensures it won't unplug. This case did remind me of something else, and if you look closely, they do resemble each other quite well, from the button layout to the controller arrangement. One of the main selling points for a Pro controller is the back buttons options. Now, let's take a closer look at the half dome option. To put them in, it's quite easy, I should say. You just have to align them and they snap on almost like it's magnetic. At first glance, they feel pretty nice and smooth. I'm not used to these smaller type of buttons, but I think they might have included them because the bigger paddles sometimes get pushed accidentally. The lever back paddles, on the other hand, are probably the more popular option, since most of the Pro controllers have them nowadays. Installation is the same as the other, you just align them and they snap into place. Wow, the grip on this is so nice. Yeah, this is what I'm used to more. I'm definitely going to use this instead of the half dome ones. They feel great and I love the design on them. I must say, I was disappointed when I first found out that this controller will only have two back paddles. I'm sure it's okay for some people, especially if this will be your first Pro controller. But yeah, I've been playing with 4 paddles for almost 2 years now, and I don't see myself going back to just 2 paddles. I prefer to map these 4 buttons to the back paddles, which helps me with FPS games and keeps my thumbs on the joysticks at all times. So what happens when we get stick drift? Because we all know that's a big problem with these controllers. Well, Sony came up with a clever solution. You're going to release this button here by sliding it, which pops up this shell. And now you just lift up one of these levers and comes out the joystick module. And you can find these on the PlayStation website for about 20 bucks. I guess this is their way to combat the stick drift issue, but again, after finding out that they are still using the same joystick modules with the potentiometers, which have about a 400-hour usage before stick drift occurs, I would have thought they would address this in a better way to completely avoid the stick drift issue and not have to spend more money for a replacement joystick module. You can just slide this back in, pull down the lever, and the shell goes on top and you're done. Now, what about the hair triggers? Well, it's the same as you have on the Xbox Elite. You have 3 sliding levels that change the trigger's travel distance. This is great for first-person shooter games for your gun to fire much faster. So this is my personal controller that I've been using for some time now. Yeah, it has some mileage on it, as you can see. And I have installed here the hair triggers by Extreme Rate, and I gotta say they're a lot more responsive and they are activated much quicker than the Edge controller. If you're a fan of the extended joysticks, we're going to see if they are compatible with the Edge controller. And on this joystick, they seem to fit with no issues. Now let's see what happens if we put the dome caps, if they are going to fit the same way. So after trying for a few minutes, they are not compatible. So these do work, but they work on the caps that come with the Edge controller. As you can see in the dome caps, they're not going to be functionable. And if you like the control freaks, I suggest you get this aim boost kit for first-person shooter games. This is not sponsored. I just really like this product, and it will help you guys on your first-person shooter gaming. The fact that the Edge controller is the same form factor as the original DualSense is probably one of my favorite aspects of it. All your muscle memory and button recognitions allows you to jump into the game with the Edge controller without any learning curves. Side by side, they are practically the same size, and all of the front button layout is identical. Just the Edge feels a bit more heavier. If we put this on the scale, the Edge comes at 328 and the regular at 283 grams. So this is what the battery looks like from the original DualSense. I don't have a battery yet from the Edge because I haven't taken it apart and I don't want to break anything. But if we check the original battery, we can see that it comes at 1,560 milliamps per hour. On this image, we can see that the battery size for the Edge Pro controller is a lot smaller, and it comes in at only 1,050 milliamps per hour, almost a third less than the original DualSense. Setting up the controller is very easy, and you're prompted with exact instructions on how to customize it. After you create a profile, you're able to assign the button layouts and map out your back buttons. If you need to, you can adjust the dead zones on your joysticks, and even there's an option to adjust the trigger dead zones and many other customizations that you could think of. For the pros, this controller has tons of options through Sony's built-in software, which is great and something that the third parties can't do. It's nice to have a swappable joysticks and paddles and extra thumb pads. You won't have to buy a new one if something goes wrong or your controller breaks. I love how it feels in your hand, and the extra grip texture makes it stand out more than the regular controller. And keeping the same form factor is awesome because you could just jump into the game without having to learn the new button layout. Now for the cons, at the price range of $200, which is half the price of a digital Sony PlayStation 5, it's a bit on the expensive side. Now for some people it's okay, but for me, 2 paddles is a deal breaker. I'm used to the 4 paddles, and most Pro controllers at this price range will have 4 paddles. So I'm not sure why they put the 2 paddles, but I'm hoping for the next gen they will have 4. To my surprise, you can only use this on a PS5, so it's not compatible with any of the PC gamers. With all the extra features, but they did downgrade the battery size, so you will expect a shorter lifespan of the battery than your regular DualSense controller. So is it worth it, and does the hype justify the product? Well, the controller itself is great, especially if this will be your first Pro controller. Personally, I have other controllers and I prefer the ones with the 4 paddles, so I will stick to those. But this controller is great with all the customizations and just the way it feels. I guess it all depends on what you're looking for and if you have the extra $200 to spend it. Well, that's it for me. Take care, and I'll see you guys on the next one.